What's up, everybody? Welcome to In Love with Horror, your destination for all things horror. I'm AJ.
And I'm Christy.
And y'all, it's time to talk again about True Detective Night Country. So we just had episode 4 of this 6-episode series. It's a mini series because it's not a formal season. It is a mini series. But yeah, so we're gonna be talking about episode 4, y'all. And just like with our previous episodes, which you haven't checked those out, check out our previous discussions for episode 1 through 3 because those are some great discussions. And it's just fun to kind of see like how we were thinking as like the show goes along, and like check out all those ones because there's some great topics, some interesting thoughts, and some lore tidbits and things like that within those. But this podcast episode is all about episode 4, and as always, it's going to be filled with spoilers. So if you haven't watched episode 4 yet, go check out episode 4 and then rejoin us here in this podcast. And so the way we kind of walk through, if this is your first time viewing our Night Country videos, what we do is we break it down into like major topics. So we'll talk about, Navarro, and then kind of go through, what she experienced and what we learned through this episode. And we'll kind of chunk it into major topics that way instead of doing like a, play by play. It just makes it more digestible, in my opinion. So with that, y'all, you got your spoiler warning. Let's go ahead and dive into episode 4. So I'm going to pass it over to you to kind of start us off with whatever our like first main topic that we're going to be talking about from episode 4.
All right, so we'll start off by talking about Navarro. Yep. I do think that this episode was really about her. And in a recent interview that Jody and Kaylee did, they were talking about the characters, Navarro and Danvers.
You talking about in that companion podcast or something else?
No, this was something else.
Okay.
And Jodie Foster said, my character is actually not the focus of the whole series. It's really Navarro and Navarro's journey. And she's just there to help her and through her journey and however way that she does that. And so I feel like this episode kind of like displayed that, like the focus really is on Navarro. So we'll start off talking about her. So in this episode, I feel like a whole lot of stuff kind of happened. This was supposed to be like Christmas time, yet it was like the most depressing episode of Christmas ever I've ever seen on TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the main question that seems to be like the theme in this show is what's supernatural and what isn't. It kind of goes back to the earlier episode with Rose, and she was like, don't confuse the supernatural with mental illness issues. And so we kind of got that question on display with this episode. And so like, for example, her sister Julia had a manic episode right off the bat in the beginning, and so Navarro checked her into the lighthouse, which is something that they were both trying to avoid. And when she's kind of like settling in, I guess she's sitting on the bed and this orange comes rolling from under the bed. And she has a supernatural experience where she sees her mother under the bed, and it freaks her out. And so like, what do you think? Is that like a supernatural thing or a mental illness type of thing? So that was kind of like the theme.
Yeah, which they did the same thing with Navarro in the last episode.
With the orange. Is that what you're talking about?
No, just in general.
Oh, in general,
with all
right.
Things that you're
exactly.
Asking you the question of, was it supernatural? Was it not? You
right.
know, just if you're just basing it solely off the episode, excluding like companion podcasts and all that stuff, but if you just absorbed what was displayed to you, that's the questions that was presented.
Right. Yeah. And throughout the episode, she talks about hearing the call. And after Julie commits suicide, she feels as though she's next, basically.
And you know who's next?
And like her mom, she's saying her mom heard the call. She says her sister heard the call, and they followed the call to their end. And so she's basically saying like, I don't have a choice. Like I have to follow the call, and this is what's going to happen to me. So I feel like at first I was kind of like feeling as though she felt like she was seeing supernatural things, but after Julie's, death, she's now starting to question, okay, well maybe this isn't supernatural and I'm just like them.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to
No,
say about that?
No, that's pretty much like what's being described. I mean, if everything is happening to your family in that way, then you can't help but feel like, well, this is going to happen to me. And she's like, I'm feeling the same symptoms. I'm experiencing things that it seems
can't
like
help
they were
but feel that way.
experiencing. So yeah,
Right. But I did listen to the companion podcast episode, and which I highly suggest because it's super, like, unless you don't want to have like any kind of like inclination of what could possibly be going on, then obviously don't listen to it. But I think it's helpful to answer some questions. And so Issa does say that it is the call of the supernatural that she's hearing. And so I do feel like Navarro is not experiencing mental health issues. She's not, I'll say she's not having the same experiences that Julie and her mom had, but that she's actually connected and seeing the spiritual side of this, whatever this realm is.
Yeah, and I actually will play devil's advocate to that, right? Because like it is cool that you can learn a lot from the companion app, and like you said, I think it is good for people to listen to get that expanded knowledge. But I feel like, in my opinion, like it's also kind of a negative because it's like then a lot of that then should be represented in the show.
I think that she's trying to relay that to us as viewers as well. Like, it's up to you. What do you believe? Like, if you don't believe in the supernatural, then obviously you're going to look at that as saying, "Oh well, she's
yeah." But you said she definitively said on the podcast.
She did say that, yes. But
that
she
it's
also said that
it's a supernatural thing.
That's what she said, and then she also said it's up to you, whatever you believe. Because I mean, like, let's just say I can tell you.
Any sense,
oh, I'm just telling you what she said. Okay.
No, but I'm saying like if she stated, oh, it is this in the show, it's this, then there's no like, well, it's what you believe it is. It don't look, y'all. To me, it doesn't make sense. You can't on one hand be like, oh yeah, in the show that is supernatural that she's seeing stuff, and then be like, well, it's up to how you interpret it. Nah, you can't do that. You got to, if it's truly up to interpretation, and you see this with other movies that have like a lot of mystery to them. Like, I'm gonna give you an example, right? Take Inception. Remember how you spin the thing at the end?
No, I don't remember that movie.
Now I could be wrong, like, but I've never like researched it. But I don't think it's ever been confirmed by Christopher Nolan that, like, oh yeah, he didn't make it out, or oh yeah, he did make it out. I feel like it was always like a
question,
like it's open, like, hey, it's what you think.
I don't think she's saying that. What she's saying is open. I think she's saying it's up to you whether or not you believe that she's actually seeing this. Just like in a real life situation, if I said, babe, there is a monster hanging off of this wall, and you look over there and you say, I don't see that monster. So you thinking,
but it's not,
I don't really believe that you see that.
It's not interpretation.
All right, the next thing
if she said does. It's not interpretation. If she said it's supernatural,
fall down.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, listen.
If she said it's supernatural, then it's not. There's no more interpretation.
God help us. Okay,
it is what it is.
All right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right. I get that.
Right.
Can we?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. So now Navarro also sees the stuffed polar bear when she's at Danvers's house. Yep. Okay, so her reaction is, okay, obviously I've seen this teddy bear. I've seen Holden holding this teddy bear, and it's real. So I feel like in that moment she has a moment where she's like, okay, well, maybe this is actually happening.
Seeing stuff. Yeah,
right.
For real. Yeah.
And later on in the episode, actually, no, in that same scene when she's at Danvers' house, she's like, you're doing the same thing that you did with the Wheeler case. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, she basically is like, you saw something in that room. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, I didn't see anything.
She tried to play it off.
Yeah, she did. She tried to play it off, which is weird to me because I feel like she's trying to accept that she's seeing things. And then the fact that Danvers recognized that she actually saw something, to me, should have been an open window for her to be like, okay, yeah, I did see something. But I digress.
That's how shows do.
Yeah. Now, Navarro also obviously experiences a really big loss in this episode. So after trying to help her sister, she leaves the facility thinking everything is cool. You know, she's going to get the help she needs and we can move forward from this. But then she gets a call that she found her body was found out in the ice or whatever. And, that basically was like her tether, I guess, to being grounded. Because after she gets this news, she basically picks a fight with Ace, the guy who was beating his friend or girlfriend or whatever at the warehouse place. And she gets her ass beat. And but it's kind of
I think
like,
that was like a moment of her just, she was so distraught and angry that like she just didn't know how to process the emotions. Like it was like an overwhelming feeling. Like, and then you just going, it'd be the equivalent of like someone, you know, drinking, right? Like they get so distraught with the emotion that they just hit the bottle and start knocking it back because they don't know how else to process.
Right. Which is what Danvers does as well.
Yep. So that's what happened with Navarro right there when her sister passed or, you know, took herself out. And then she was like, I don't even know how to process this shit. So then she saw opportunity to be like, oh, I'm a process it by trying to go, you know, fight these dudes. You know what I'm saying?
I also thought she was like, she was numb, and so she needed to feel something, and so she went out and picked this fight because she knew she drove by him one time, and she purposely went back because she knew what was going to happen if she went out.
Oh, right, yeah,
that. Yeah. All right, so now let's move on to Danvers. So in this episode, we had a little bit of kind of like seeing her compassionate side, which I liked seeing. So we had two instances that I wanted to point out. So earlier in the episode, she kind of like she's driving and she sees Julia outside taking off her clothes. And she just, wraps her up into her hug. She tells her she's okay. She even called her baby. She's like, "You okay, baby? I got you." She was super sweet. When it was a night and day from how she interacted with that other lady and how she interacted with her. It was super sweet, and I liked seeing that side of her. And then another moment when Leah was asleep early in the episode, and she like went in and like moved her hair and stuff like that. I was like, oh, she's sweet.
Yeah,
like
she really did
very
care.
in her mom mode. So obviously she is a caring person. It's just buried deep down inside.
Right, yeah.
And then also in this episode, Leah vandalizes the mine by writing murders on the outside of the offices. And so she gets upset. She feels as though her mom takes their side by, just kind of like letting it go, like, let's not press no charges. Let's just both walk away from this. But Leah sees it as an opportunity for her to stand up for what's right, and she doesn't. And so,
which is like, to me, that was just such a dumb thought process.
Well, she's a kid.
Yeah.
So I feel like it makes sense as like a teenager, right? A teenager.
Yeah,
you want to see your mom like go ham on somebody, stand up for you type of thing.
Yeah, but I think Danvers just did a poor job of explaining the issue, right? It's
yeah, for sure.
It's like if she would have been like, "Oh yeah, trust me, I get it. The mine's fucked up, but you can't vandalize something." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
You know what I mean? Like she could have handled it better. Like
she could have handled a lot of situations better.
Yeah, she could explain like, "Look, like I get it. Hey, I understand this shit is fucked, but look, you can't vandalize stuff." Though.
I agree with that.
Because then it occurs penalty, and there ain't nothing I can do to help you. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No. But because she felt that way, she didn't feel seen, she didn't feel heard, so she left.
She did.
She went to go stay with Kayla and Grandma. And then also we get a lot of her facing what she does actually believe. So we have this conversation with Navarro earlier on in the episode when they're in the car and they're kind of talking about, real stuff, which is very interesting. Like they're having some heart to heart moments throughout this particular conversation.
Yeah. They seem like they were like more cool with each other.
Yeah. Well, this was after she helped her sister. So, with that moment as well, there was kind of like that, thankfulness and gratitude. And she even like, touched her arm.
Yeah, she
like
did.
looking out or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, so Danvers is opening up to her, talking to her about the loss of her mom and what that was like and how that kind of like altered the way she believes because God didn't save her mom. So now she's like, well, there's no God. And then she sees the polar bear again later on in the episode. And when she had that interaction with Navarro at her house, she was like, the dead are dead. No one's, they don't see us. And she gets upset and she throws the bear outside the house. And I feel like at this point, she's like, she can't really rationalize the things she's seeing. She can't rationalize the things that Navarro's experiencing because, right before that is when she's looking at the bear. Like she's seen this bear before and she's like, what? You're doing that weird thing. She already knew. She knew that she knew what that bear was, So it's like at this point, she's upset with herself even because I don't know the truth and I can't rationalize it anymore. Yeah. So now I'm upset.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
You look like you don't.
Well, no, I agree with that. And I think also too, it's I think for her, it's a multitude of things. Like, you know, it's her dead child. So, you know, she doesn't want to even have like an interaction with the dead because that's just going to make it more painful. Mm-hmm. You know, so she's going to automatically block out anything that deals with the dead because she don't want the grief and stuff to like come along with that aspect.
Yeah.
So I think for her, it's like a bunch of different shit.
Oh yeah.
From that not being able to rationalize it to not want to have to go through all that grief each time she might.
Because she's
see
like a
something
completely
related.
different person. Like when we get these flashbacks of how she used to be when she had, you know, her boo and she had her son, and now, and even, you know, later on when Connolly was talking about how she kind of like switched, like even she was still kind of like, you know, bitchy, but she wasn't as bad as she became after she lost Holden and her husband. So, yeah, it's just that loss is just really, really heavy on her.
Yeah. That's a good point you brought that up. And I feel like, because now that was just a person who also confirmed it when Connolly was like, oh yeah, you know, it got worse after this. So it sounds like she was never a people person.
Right.
But that junk went on steroids once she had lost her family. So,
right.
Yeah, we definitely got the both sides of the spectrum with Danvers in this episode for sure.
All right, so let's talk about Hank's ass, because in
Hank.
in this episode, it was very interesting to me because
I feel bad for him.
You did. I can't believe you. Even I was seeing other people talk about it as well, like on Reddit and just in their YouTube videos, and how emotional that was. And I'm like, the fuck? Like, he got what he deserved. I do not like this guy.
Bad for him.
But okay, so in the episode, his boo didn't show up. He was outside holding his little teddy bear, his little buddy rabbit, waiting for his boo to get off the airplane. And she didn't show up.
No.
And I thought it was very interesting because he was looking for her. And at one point, the flight attendant comes out and he gets excited because he thinks it's her, and then realizes it's not her. And I'm like, oh, so she got him sending her pictures, and she hasn't ever sent him any. He don't even know what she looks like.
Yeah, he's definitely being scammed all the way.
Super scammed.
Yeah.
And then, you know, later on when he goes to tell Peter, you know, oh yeah, she didn't come. He's like, oh, you didn't send her any money, did you?
Yeah, Peter's already thinking like, hey, look, bro, you being scammed.
He didn't even answer
right
the question because he knows his ass getting scammed. But he's in denial, I think, because he was like, so I'm sure it's a reason. You know, her mom's been sick.
Yeah, he was rationalizing it. Like he's coming up with every reason he could think of. You know, I think he said he tried to call him, but she didn't answer. So
yeah,
like, you know, she's just busy, like a lot going on.
Right.
Like,
and then he comes back home and he's got like the rose petal on his
he did it up.
His bed.
He had a nice bottle
in the fridge.
Yeah,
like
he did it up.
He just knew that his boo was showing up.
But you know what? What I would think, you know, obviously I felt bad for him.
I did.
I did, because I was like, man, you know, it would suck for that to happen to anybody.
After I saw him punch Pete in the face, I'm done with him.
But I think what I was more shocked about was I thought he was gonna be upset. But he was very like calm and collected.
Yeah,
I thought he was gonna
really
when he went to the bedroom. When he went to the bedroom,
thought he was gonna throw.
I thought he was gonna start just throwing shit around.
He
started picking him up. Like, you know what? She'll come next time. Like, I don't know what
something
he was
wrong with him.
Yeah, something wrong with him, or he just that desperate and lonely. But I did feel bad because he got scammed. So he probably lost money. He lost
obviously
his
lost
emotions
money.
Got jacked up. And I think what was interesting too was in the midst of that, he was also like really nice to Peter.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you know what? Like I can come over for Christmas and stuff. And even Peter was like,
right.
Like,
that's how I am. I don't know.
Okay.
Hank is trash. So
I think he was more taken aback by it, you know, like, he's like, I think deep down he's like, oh, that actually would be cool. I'm just more shocked that you're even offering this. So I think it definitely like softened him up a little bit.
Yeah, it shouldn't have. But I guess, you know, it's his dad. But
yeah.
I'm just keep thinking about the fact that he knocked his block off the last episode.
Well,
so
yeah.
It's like,
you know, he felt like he was betraying him a little bit. He didn't say nothing.
Right.
And I think that goes back to the whole choosing, like, you know,
right.
Danvers
That's
and
true.
all that stuff.
I get it.
But one thing I also thought was interesting too in regards to Hank was I thought he was going to try to stand up for Peter more with Peter
Christmas
not
thing?
working on Christmas. Surprisingly, he didn't. So, like, you know, he really bows down to Danvers being the, you know, the boss of all this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I also think he knows Peter wouldn't have chosen to
listen to him anyway.
Listen to him anyway.
I guess that's true.
And I didn't write this into my notes, but I could, because I feel as though Peter and Danvers have like a weird like trauma bond with each other, and I feel like he's gonna ride for her, whatever. It doesn't matter. Kind of like back to the last episode when Kayla was, talking about like it doesn't matter if this case is over. Like this is not gonna stop.
You're gonna be working all the time. Yep.
Yeah. So we can talk about Peter next.
All right. Let's talk about Peter.
But yeah, so like I was saying with Peter, I feel like him and Danvers, because she's lost her son and he doesn't have his mom. So I feel like they've kind of like formed this unsaid bond with each other. And I feel like he probably will do whatever she tells him.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
But yeah, so he does, like you said, he gets called into work on Christmas Eve because she's got this hunch and she's not going to let it go. And she's drunk. Danvers is drunk, so she can't drive. And so she ropes him in and Navarro to go do something. But yeah, so he comes back and, apologizes to Kayla. He's like, he doesn't even like, I think it's interesting their interaction with each other. Like she's laying on the side.
Oh, they're very distant.
Very distant. He climbs into the bed and he just says, "I'm sorry." And then we also learn from that little whatever that was with each other that it seems like she didn't really want to be with him, like marry him anyways and have a baby with him. Seemed like she accidentally got pregnant and then they found themselves in this marriage with each other. And I also thought it was funny. I was looking back at the episode again, how when he calls her, she's got his last name on the phone. It says Pryor. Yeah. Like it doesn't say, Peter or hubby or boo or anything like that. It's just Pryor. Yeah. So obviously they have some kind of like tension, that's straining their marriage, and obviously it's hanging on by a single thread.
It's definitely a single thread. That's
sure. And I just felt so sorry for him. I feel like there's something we're missing with Peter that we just haven't gotten into yet. I'm hoping we do get some more, and I do hate that this series is so short because there's a lot that we don't really know about Peter and Kayla. But when Navarro comes out, she's like, "I'm sorry, freshman," and you could just see in his face like he was just so like disappointed that he had to be out there instead of being at home.
Yeah, I did think it was cool when like he like asked she was drunk or whatever, and they had like a laugh about it. Like that was like a cool moment where it's like, hey, I know this shit sucks, but,
right? Yeah, because I feel like he early on didn't understand like, well, why don't you like Navarro? Like he really wants to know what the issue is, and I honestly think it's like a 2-reason thing. Like one reason being he doesn't want to become Navarro.
That's right. That's what I was thinking.
In Danvers' eyes. Yep. And then, he doesn't want to become Navarro in the sense of where he doesn't have anyone. Because, later on Navarro talks about how she's alone, how Danvers is alone, how Rose is alone. And Kayla's telling him, like, your ass gonna be alone if you keep doing this. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I think it's like 2 things with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about... I think that's pretty much all we got with Peter.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for Peter.
All right, so a little bit later, early on in the episode, Connolly worms himself back into the case, and the biggest question is, why is he there? He claims he's there because of like the protests and all this other stuff, and he doesn't feel like Danvers is capable of handling this case by herself. For some reason, this is mentioned that he is running for mayor in Anchorage. And I'm wondering if that has some kind of like purpose to why he's there, or... Yeah,
probably. If I had to guess, it'd look good campaign wise, right? Like, oh yeah, he helped, solve this big case. Yeah. And he's like a protector, and like I think it just added to his, campaign for mayor to be like, oh yeah, he can run the city. He's, protected and serving the city. Like, I think it's like a for looks type
type of thing. That's probably. And then he doesn't want anyone to know about the video of Annie K, which I thought was weird. But I don't know. What did you think about that?
I just thought it was like I think he said that because if I'm looking at it from like a detective standpoint, he didn't want people to know that they knew that there's some sort of cave out there, so that they can go and who's ever left, or the killer or whatever, can go and destroy evidence or close up this cave or do something, Right. It's like, you know how they say in these true crime things, like you can't put all the information out there.
Yeah.
You don't want them to 100% know what you got so that you can, kind
Yeah.
of move how you need to move to get closer to them. But if you put that video out, to me, it was like
I'm not saying put it out like into the public or whatever, but he was just saying like it was need to know, as in like, I'm assuming he meant like no other people.
Oh, well, yeah, it could be that
case.
too. Maybe he thinks that there's somebody on the inside.
Yeah.
He's got some sort of close ties to something.
Well, when we see the, what's coming in the next episode, at the end of the episode, they show Connolly being like kind of weird, like, well, this is over. This case is it, like, so I'm just wondering how we get from, if you're saying he's wanting to keep hush hush because he doesn't want people to know what they're doing with the case, to shutting it all the way down.
Well, they must have discovered something that to him satisfied this case being closed. Like, okay, this is figured out. We're going to roll with this one. And it is what it is. Yep.
Well, hopefully we will get some more of Connolly. And I just feel like he being kind of sneaky about stuff. I don't know. It's just me.
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like he's less sneaky than Hank though. So.
Oh, well, and I'm not saying he's suspicious in the sense of like he's involved with anything.
Oh, okay,
I'm
yeah.
just saying like I feel like he got ulterior motives.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so we got a bunch of different like small clues within this episode that we don't really know how they link together quite yet. So we're gonna like just kind of go through some of those. So at the beginning of the episode, Danvers and Navarro go to see the teacher from the school. That was a really funny part of the show.
Oh yeah, because she didn't want to show her face and stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
And I like how Navarro was like, "Damn, is there anybody in town you ain't fucked?" Like, good God,
It was so funny.
yeah.
But so they went to go see him, and they showed him the video because they wanted to see if he had any knowledge of these caves or whatever. And while he was looking at the video, he realized that there were the fossils were prehistoric whale bones. And then he also did recognize the caves as well, the ice caves.
Yeah.
And we also had learned that her body obviously had to be moved from where it was in the ice caves.
I figured that.
Right, exactly. Now, when he was talking about these caves, he was like, because Navarro was like, well, where are these have to be really far away because there are no caves here. And he was basically telling her, there's an ice cave system here. He was like, it's just like, you got to be careful going through them or whatever. You can't navigate them normally. Yep. And earlier in the episode, Pryor, now I'm calling him Pryor, Peter, he kind of like tracked the injuries that the researchers had sustained and found someone who had those very same injuries.
That boy be doing some detective work.
He does some
Peter
good
ain't no joke, boy.
detective work. He really does.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he found someone who did. His name was Otis Heiss. And when this particular scene, when the teacher is talking about this guide who actually mapped this cave system to be able to guide them, it turns out to be Otis, the same guy.
Yep.
So we don't know, like, we don't know what his connection is or tie is to Salal, but later on we get some kind of clue that he is somewhat connected to Salal or Raymond Clark, either of the two of those. But yeah, so in the ice caves, because Danvers, because when she's drunk and depressed because Leela has left her, she's just like watching the videos.
Yeah, she really analyzing a lot.
And she notices that there's like a flash in the video and it triggers something in her mind. So she goes back to look at the original video of Raymond Clark and there's the same similar type of flash. And so that cues to her that there was like a generator of use or some kind of power electrical supply in this cave to have the same thing happen. And that leads her to say, okay, well, Tagaq is the one who's like the electrical engineer or some sort of like that. So y'all need to go back and talk to him.
Right.
So that's what she had sent Peter and Navarro to do. Yep. But when they get there, he's gone. Like he left like right after they had came to question him before.
Yeah, he bounced for real.
And he left behind like a cardboard drawing of the spiral and like a little rock with the spiral carved into it. Yeah. And before they left, they kind of like showed the other people that were out there, like, hey, you know what this is? And they like kind of like just stared at her. And the way that they were looking to me, their faces kind of reminded me of the woman whose fingers were cut off at the warehouse. Like the way she looked at it is the same way that they were like looking at her, like, well, we know, but we ain't gonna tell you what that is, you know, type of thing, or you know, whatever. But that was just my observation.
Yeah, I just thought I guess to me they just seemed more like they just wanted them to leave, like get the F out of our area type. That's how I felt.
Okay,
because even the dogs kind of moved forward a little bit, and they kind of were like, you know, they had a stance of like, either you gonna leave or we're gonna let these dogs loose, like fuck you up, you know. That's just how I felt.
Okay. Well, the good thing about these conversations is, you know, you might feel away, I might feel away, whatever, but it's all good conversation.
Yeah, so that's the whole point. Yep.
All right. So later on in the episode,
go
ahead.
Okay, you're gonna mention it later. Never mind. I'm looking at the notes. You can talk about it later.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna bring up Kovic, but it looks like you're gonna talk about it later because I was gonna bring up The Rock.
Oh, okay, yeah. Did you want to go ahead and talk about that now then?
Well, no, we'll get to it because
Okay.
you got it in the notes down there. We can wait till we get to it.
All right. Well, yeah. So later on in the episode, Peter, he sends a picture to Danvers of what looks like Raymond Clark walking across the ice in the coat. And so they go, you know, straight out to where he sent them to, which is where they call dredge. And so they go out there looking for him. And actually what they find is not Raymond, but Otis wearing Raymond Clark's coat.
Yep.
And, you know, he's like saying weird stuff. You know, she's trying to figure out, like, how did you get this coat? Like, where's Raymond? And he's like, oh, he's gone back down. He's hiding in the night country. And he's like, well, we're all in the night country now. And this was actually a very weird scene. Like, there was like the supernatural dial was turned all the way up in this one.
With Navarro
was like seeing Annie. She was seeing her sister. She was following footsteps, footprints in the dust. She is led off to where there's like a Christmas tree lit up that's being powered by a battery, which is really weird. But yeah, it was a whole lot going on in this particular scene. I was trying to figure out like what is the night country. You know. Obviously, we don't have anything to go off of, so everything we would think would be a theory. Yep. So I was like, well, it could be related to what Rose said, you know, about how, you know, Ennis has like that barrier, that thin barrier between here and then somewhere else. And maybe that somewhere else is the night country.
Yeah.
Or maybe it has some kind of reference to something underground, like the Mine Wise. And I'm wondering, I wonder if there's some connection between Salal and the Mine Like Underground. I don't know, but I'm just guessing stuff. And then I was like, well, maybe the night country could mean like, it could be that realm, and maybe he's dead and he's over there or whatever. Yeah. And maybe the people that Navarro are seeing are over there as well. Cause now she's seeing Julie, she's seeing Annie, she's seeing her mom. But yeah, so that's what I was trying to like. What could this be? So what do you think it could be?
Yeah, I feel like that's the way he says it. I feel like that's what it is. It's got to be some sort of like, you know, especially because the show was taking place during a period in time when Ennis is like in permanent darkness essentially, and so I almost feel like it's almost like a metaphor too about the night taking over. So it's like, oh, we're in night country.
Yeah.
Maybe like during this period, like the supernatural stuff is amped up.
This could be possible.
And so maybe it's like some sort of like thing with the moon, you know, like that type of shit where it's like, oh, like we're in this period in time where like the night realm or night spirit or whatever has like taken over, and like now we're in its country. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's something along those lines of being in the night country.
Well, it could be none of that at all. And, you know, he's obviously a drug user.
Yeah, he just high as
his
hell.
head. Yeah. And everything else everyone else is experiencing has to do with the water.
Yep.
Because I did look up, because I had no idea what a dredge is or what it does. But according to Google, dredging it's like the big, you know, the thing that they saw out there. Basically like they dig down under the ground, right? And so it has very significant environmental impacts. It can actually disturb marine sediments, which leads to both short and long-term water pollution. It destroys seabed ecosystems and can release human source toxins captured in the sediment. and they.
So what's the point of judging? Like, is it just sheerly digging for
There's
something?
different reasons for
Like for
judging.
oil or
Like
something?
you could do it for any kind of reason. So I don't know what their purpose was for it, but
They're
it could
just
be
digging
all
for
kinds.
something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just
All right.
whatever it could be. Whatever they might deem necessary for them to go down there for.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I said, that could also all tie back to the water, you know.
True.
And then while we're in this dredge night country area, Navarro's like in a trance and where she's like staring and her ear is bleeding.
Yep.
And I don't know what that could mean.
Was anyone else in the
Well,
show's ear ever bled?
the researchers' ears were bleeding,
Okay.
but obviously she wasn't, you know, like them.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Maybe this experience is similar.
Yeah.
You know, she got like a light version of it or something. They got like the OD version. Maybe that's something like that.
Yeah. So that's something we don't really know how it connects to anything. And then I've heard people kind of like talking a little bit about this floating around in Reddit and stuff like that. But I think we kind of got like a confirmation in this particular episode that there is some sort of connection to Sedna, the goddess of the sea. And basically there's like this story where she was supposed to be forced into a marriage she didn't want to be in. Her dad basically killed her. He chopped off her fingers as she's trying to like hold onto the boat because he tried to throw her over a kayak. And when her fingers come off, they go into the water, they turn into sea creatures like whales and things like that. And she becomes the goddess of the sea. But the Inupiaq women will actually tattoo their fingers, these lines across their fingers as like an honoring to Sedna. And so we noticed that grandma also has the tattoo lines on her hands as well. So there definitely is that connection to Sedna, the goddess of the sea. What happens to the rock that Navarro found at Tagak's hut thing? Because it gets lost. She wants to go shows it to Danvers, and she's like, "Oh wait, I don't got it. Is where?"
Yeah, because it's either she lost it or like Kavik like took it intentionally. But they obviously made it a point to show that he saw it, right? He's like, "Oh, what is this?" And he like puts it down. So I mean, like, for them to show it in that way, I feel like it's got some significance. And then for them to like bring it up again later, she's like, "Oh, look at this rock. Oh wait, I don't know where it's at. I lost it."
Yeah.
I feel like those two things combined makes it feel like, you know, it's got some sort of significance. That could be like a red herring where it's just
It
like
could be.
Oh, it's like a, you know, trying to fake
Trying
you
to throw
out.
you off.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But
it does make you question.
It is weird.
It's super weird.
Because they showed the hut in that
Yes.
as the opening credit scene in episode 2.
Yes. Or no, it was the last episode.
Was it the last one?
It was the last episode.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they showed
you're
his,
right. It was last
his
episode.
ice fishing hut in that. And another channel, the Think Story channel that I like watching, they pointed out that the marks on Annie K's body could match ice shoes. Okay. And the only person we've seen wearing those is Kavik when he was out there in the ice hut thing.
Okay.
And, you know, Navarro did mention that she was kicked. And so it does make sense for it to have been kicked with someone wearing ice shoes. But my question would be, why would it be Kavik? You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Because to me, it seems like her murderer wouldn't be someone who was also a Inupiaq. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't make sense.
That to me, that part doesn't make sense unless there's something else that we don't know about Kavik.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not Inupiaq. I don't know. He just seems so normal. Like when he finds her in the bar, he's laying upstairs with his glasses
chilling.
on, reading a book. Like he was reading a book. I don't know. He just seems so normal.
Yeah.
Like why would he do this? Like such heinous act to someone.
Yeah, or it could have been that maybe he didn't do something, but man, he just knows.
Or he
something.
could possibly know something.
That's all.
Yeah, for sure. It was another thing I wanted to point out about Kavik, but now I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But anyways, all right. But it was just really weird. A really
It was
weird
strange.
instance.
Yep.
And then Julie, when she decides that, and Issa did say, you know, did this because she was just tired. Like she was
That makes sense.
exhausted from all the stuff that she was dealing with. And she didn't want to take medicine because she kept saying, you know, I don't want to be medicated. Yeah. And she didn't want to go through the things that her mother went through. So I feel like that she was just like, there's no other option for me. So she decided to just, commit suicide. But yeah, so before she does that, she neatly folds her clothes. And you mentioned that it was similar to how the clothes of
It was almost the exact same. So I just thought it was weird that one, they actually showed her folding the clothes. But I feel like it was super similar, right? Like, she took off all her clothes, was completely naked, and folded them neatly with the shoes on top. And the researchers died in a similar way, where they were all naked, clothes folded with the shoes on top.
Yeah.
So that's like, okay, that's super weird for them to be taken out in such a similar fashion.
Yeah.
So, maybe they experienced something supernatural in the sense of like what Julie experienced, where they hear this call or something like that
right beforehand.
Right. And
made them
then
go out there.
Something happens. I just thought it was weird.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, obviously, we need more info, but it's weird as hell.
Yeah. And, when she did that, I thought about something that I had either read before or seen before in regards to people doing that before they do that. And so I looked it up, but I couldn't really find a lot of information. But that apparently in Japan, that's a thing. Like for them to like take off their shoes or to like neatly fold their items as a way for the people not to have to like worry about the people that find them, have to worry about that stuff. So I don't know if she was using that as inspiration or if, like you're saying, it's connected to what happened to the researchers or not. But I just thought it was like weird as well.
Yeah, it is weird. All right, so closing thoughts. What did you think about episode 4?
This was, to me, one of my favorite episodes, even though it was super depressing. I feel like I think I actually walked out of the room during one of the...
Yeah, you were like up and moving around a lot because it was very emotional for you.
It was very emotional, but I still think we learned a lot about the characters in this one. And even the creator had said that that is what the purpose of this episode was for you to kind of like uncover and get to know them a little better. I just wish we got a little bit more of Peter's like background in this. I know he's not really like a main character, but I feel like he has enough importance that he should also get something, some kind of backstory about him. But anyways, overall, I thought it was a really good episode.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the episode was good. It was a little slower than I would have liked it to be. But I feel like it's setting up for the penultimate episode where, like, they got to give you the backstory and the build up.
Yeah.
And so now we're building up to this penultimate episode where we're going to get, some more major revelations that'll lead into the finale of this series.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's natural for you to like, start up here, kind of go down where you're like taking a breather. And getting that more background, and you start to go back up as you get towards the end, where it's like, all right, like shit getting crazy, shit getting real. Even the next, how they put the teaser in the show for the next episode, that looks more like exciting. Like there's just a lot going on.
Yeah. And
this one's just a lot more slower paced. They even, had a lot more of like a lot more music in the sense of like conveying like emotion and heaviness and the weight of stuff, and it's really meant for you to like really connect with the characters. This episode was a way for you to connect with the characters on a very deep and emotional level, kind of away from the case in a way. Like a case is always there, but I feel like this one kind of like pulled away from it a little bit, and it was more like the deep dive character stuff, which is good. But I'm just ready to like ramp back up into the like.
Well, I think we'll be coming back to the case in the next episode, of course. But I agree. It was a little bit slower, but I still think it was a necessary. Oh,
I agree. Yeah, because
part of it.
Because, and it's always tough when you're watching the show from week to week, right? Because if we were to watch this show, let's say all the episodes are out right now, when you have a slow moment, it's all right. Because you're like, oh, I'm just going to play the next episode. And then like everything's consistent. So everything has this rhythm to it where you don't mind the slower episodes because you're about to go right back into the. Yeah. But when you got to wait. Like, damn,
it makes a big difference.
We had to watch this episode. It was slow as hell. And I got to wait for the next week. I got to wait a long time. So like, you always got to think about these shows as a complete package. Yeah. You can't always be like, oh, this wasn't good because it was slower. It's like, nah, it's just. if you binged it, you wouldn't have that same feeling because you're not eagerly anticipating the next episode. You know what I'm saying? Which is why I think about season 3, how much I like that. I kind of wonder in my head, like, how would I have felt
If you had to
watching it
wait.
week to week? I watched it back to back to back because the season was already out. And like that, the rhythm of it was incredible. The flow, the ebb and flow of all the time and stuff. So I do wonder that if we were to watch this from episode 1 to 6 all in one go, would this episode feel even better having the flow of all the episodes and being able to just jump right into the next one?
Right.
But all that to say that I still thought it was a great episode. Obviously, we're both still looking forward to the next one.
Yeah.
So learning more about what's going on and seeing how the characters process and handle it. So,
Yeah. And now, how are you feeling about the fact that it is only 6 episodes?
that doesn't really bother me as long as they take advantage of the last two episodes, especially if they're a little bit longer.
Well, that's the hope, right?
Yeah, like if the finale is like an hour and a half and this 5th episode's an hour, like I'm cool with it only being 6 as long as they like
Flesh out the story.
as long as they don't go slow in these last 2 and they start like it's just nothing but main case storyline. They just start hitting it, boom, boom, boom. Then I'm like, all right, cool. I don't mind this being 6 episodes. That shit don't bother me at all. But as long as they don't wait to the final episode to actually start getting stuff to pop off,
Yeah.
I feel like that's when I have problems with shows. When it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, like you put us through these different things, but like you waited to the finale to really like make stuff pop off. So if this penultimate episode goes hard, like, and the finale gets set up really good, like I'll be content with it being 6. That ain't being a big deal for me. Yeah, why do you feel otherwise?
Only because I feel like we just don't get enough.
Oh, you just want more character stuff.
Yeah, I do.
You need the book. You need the book version.
I need the
of
book
this.
version.
Yeah, so you need to release a book on this so you can read the book.
I do.
Right. But yeah, y'all, that's what we're thinking about. Night Country episode 4 in the series so far. Let us know in the comments, how did you feel about episode 4? What are your theories? What do you think is going on? What were your favorite moments? Then also, how are you feeling about the series as a whole? You cool with the 6 episodes? Do you wish there was more? And how do you think the last 2 episodes will go? Because I'm thinking it's about to be breakneck speed from here on out, which I'm cool with. But maybe not. But hopefully these episodes are longer, and we'll be able to spend that time and get a lot out of it. But y'all let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and also if you're listening on Spotify, you can use the little Q&A portion to let us know your thoughts as well. As always, thank you all so much if you made it this far into the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like this video, this podcast. Make sure you share it. Make sure you comment, and make sure you subscribe to continue the overall discussion on all things horror here on In Love with Horror. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.